I have no clue what thumbnail you've clicked on. We're shooting this video in November 2022, and we created this system that changes it every day. And what we're doing here is bringing this practice to the very extreme. This is an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration of a practice that more or less has defined the web as we know it today. It's this practice that started with a clever American advertiser born in 1866, but it has defined the internet. The reason why YouTube thumbnails change is A/B testing. Essentially, creators are testing one thumbnail against the other to find a winner.
The winner takes it all.
But that test can be repeated again and again and again to optimize through the very last consequences. And this practice extends to newsletters and email subjects and landing pages and websites and entire applications. So I went on a hunt for examples and stories from founders and product managers that could tell me even more about what they've done and how it has impacted their work. And I discovered, of course, how we are all essentially guinea pigs of thousands of experiments that run across the web in every page you visit. Experiments ranging from simple color changes to changes that tap into the very core of our human psyche. So in this video, I want to tell you a few of the stories that we've discovered, successful A/B tests that companies have run, the platforms they use to run them, and some of the best practices from our own experiences doing this ourselves. Claude Hopkins is known as the father of the A/B tests. Before tech, before computers, before screens, before calculators, he figured out that by creating coupon campaigns with two different versions of the same campaign, he could essentially improve results dramatically. He called it scientific advertising, and it earned him incredible recognition and a salary in 1907 that was equivalent to about $5 million in today's money. But translate that to today, A/B tests again, have defined the web as we know it. Now, before I go into these examples, there's one very key concept that you need to understand. It's simple, but if you don't get this part, nothing in the rest of the video is gonna make a lot of sense. What an A/B test does, essentially, is take the amount of traffic going to a page or to a thumbnail or to an in-app experience and split it into two or more groups, the control and the variant. You can have as many variants as you want, but for the test to be valid, those groups need to be mostly random. There needs to be a minimum amount of people going through the test and enough difference in the outcomes to determine that the test was valid. This is called statistical significance, and you don't really need to understand how it works in the background. We actually made this tool. It's free. I'm gonna link it in the description, and you just need to plug values there to determine if the significance is there, and you have to do that before making any crazy decisions with your results. Why so? Because improvements based on an audience that's not large enough or based on a difference that's too small may not be relevant enough to declare a winner, and this can be very dangerous. Now remember, A/B tests can be used on anything from ads to websites to buttons to YouTube thumbnails, and you'd be surprised how much difference a very small change can make. Some of these stories I knew already, some I discovered while researching this video, but listening and reading through them meant all my team got bombarded this week with ideas about what we should be doing to change thumbnails and approach our landing pages and newsletters differently. Also, a very last disclaimer, these are all success stories that the teams behind them made public. Most A/B tests are not successful, or they're just not relevant enough to talk about them. Out of the ones that we run in Slidebean, something like half doesn't end up improving anything, but testing our pages is just a routine part of the marketing team's job. Okay, examples. Let's start with Groove. When preparing their first website to come out of their beta, they did a full market research exercise to educate the design of their new page. And that included doing a market gap analysis to understand not only what their competitors were doing, but how they were selling it and how they could stand apart. And then based on this, they worked on this full marketing site design with proper mockups, wireframes, finished designs. They launched it and it tanked. 2 weeks in, their landing page conversion, that's the percentage of people that visit the website and signed up for the platform, was 1.87%, which is just catastrophic by most standards. Imagine if a click to the website cost them $3 or $4 on ads. A lead or a sign up on this page would be costing about $200. That's a lead, not a paid customer. Now, this whole project took months, and according to Alex, their CEO, it cost them around $50,000 in designer fees. The work that they did was good. The pages look good. The market gap research sounds to me like a valid experiment, like a valid document. The problem was that this was too expensive of a project, and it wasn't lean. They developed dozens of pages, spent weeks and months before testing anything. So 2 weeks in, they were willing to throw all that work in the trash, swallow their pride, and start over with a new page, which not all product managers are willing to do that quickly, especially when you spend so much money. Their approach the second time was something that they called copy first, which doesn't ignore the value of good design, but again, according to Alex, it lets design take a back seat. They went and talked to hundreds of customers to understand what was driving them, what was the pain that they were looking to solve, and why they had signed up for the platform. And their biggest breakthrough, their biggest discovery was that many of them were frustrated with Zendesk, which is their competitor, this customer support tool. So they had a customer support platform already, but hated it. And this simple insight educated the copy for them. And it has echoes even through today's landing pages that's been optimized many more times. The fact that the page was not so design heavy and didn't need to be perfect allowed them to ship it within a couple of days, and it meant that future changes were a lot easier. And after A/B testing it against the original one, conversion rate increased to 4.3% from the 1.8 that they saw on that launch version. Now, the differences between A/B tests are usually very small. They're gradual improvements, and that's why you need to double check statistical significance. Doubling conversion rates with a variant is a massive breakthrough, and you don't see that every day. And again, it doesn't stop there. Key conversion parts of the website, like a landing page that gets a bulk of the website's traffic, they need to be in constant iteration. Even today, as we post this video, their landing page has completely changed. The best tool to run these landing pages is a tool called Google Optimize. It's free and lets you run one page against the other, or even change parts of that page with just installing a little snippet. Remember, make sure that you give your tests enough time to make them statistically significant, because it's very tempting to just draw conclusions before the data is reliable. Unbounds is another solid platform that you can use to quickly build landing pages and test them against each other. This was an example of a complete overhaul, but A/B tests can also cover small details and make small but incremental and important differences. HubSpot, for example, designed just a small corner of their blog, and it was enough to get them thousands of extra leads. Because you see, HubSpot's game is content marketing. They publish content around many axes and want you to read and engage with that content as you get nurtured to eventually buy their product. And last year, they discovered that desktop users that use the search bar, that thing they have in the right corner, they discovered that if they use it, there's a 1.5x extra chance of them becoming leads. In other words, if you use HubSpot's search bar, you are very likely to sign up for their newsletter or to download one of their free resources, which of course requires you to give them their email. This all makes sense once you see it, but finding this connection between search and conversion to becoming a lead requires a lot of data analysis. I'm not going to bore you with that in this video, but let me know if you want us to cover some of that. Of course, getting more people to search was critical. It means more leads. Now, they played around with some designs, with some small changes, with different copy inside the search bar, and they found that this version had a 6% increase in people that ran a search. Now, that's nowhere near Groove's 2x improvement, but on a page like HubSpot with the thousands of visits they get, 6% is a breakthrough. Still, just looking at how many more people ran a search is a dangerous false success. You have to look at your core objective. Their objective was more people becoming leads, giving them their email. And that improvement was 3%, not the whole 6%. But still a small success, essentially just changing the copy inside the bar. Of course, by the time we've published this video, HubSpot's page will have likely changed and it's been overhauled again, because optimization never ends. Now, testing experiences like this requires much more advanced tools. I've worked with Optimizely in the past, and they've pivoted from competing directly with Google Optimize into much more advanced tools for data scientists. Now, before I move into some of my favorite YouTube examples, I want to talk about today's sponsor, which is ChartMogul. ChartMogul is this platform where startup founders, where revenue leaders, where data analysts can work together to speed up their growth and find the levers that they need to pull to make that growth happen. They have a beautiful UI for SaaS, for subscription companies to dive as deep as they want in the metrics of their customers. And we've been their customers for much longer than they've been our sponsors. At Slidebean, we've been using ChartMogul for years to track our core growth metrics around MRR and churn and expansion, to decide on our pricing strategy and to look at the results of our A/B tests. For thousands of B2B SaaS companies, it's been super powerful to look at their data through a single pane of glass to get these clear insights based on your existing billing setup, and then analyze that based on plan or location or customer size or cohort. Even better yet, it's free. If your company has under $10,000 in subscriptions, it's totally free. And after that, it has a pricing that scales with you. You can sign up for free using the link in the description. Thanks again to the ChartMogul team for helping us make cool videos. And now let's talk about thumbnails. Because a landing page might get thousands of views per month, but for any channel of a decent size, their thumbnails are getting thousands of impressions per day. Moreover, on a desktop, you're competing with dozens of other thumbnails for a viewer's attention, all on the same screen. So your thumbnail is almost like a movie billboard here. We have struggled with thumbnails a lot, which is what I've been pushing myself and the team to really get our shit together on thumbnail and title making. By the way, for the purposes of this video, consider thumbnail an oversimplification of thumbnail and title, because they are really both part of the same thing. Anyway, one of the most shocking revelations I had as part of this journey to improve this stuff was this slide on Mr. Beast's presentation at VidSummit.
Jimmy sent this to me.
Oh, okay. I send this to all my friends before I upload a video, and I'm like, hey, which one do you like? You don't have to go this extreme. I'm probably the most extreme with thumbnails. So now on average, we're probably making like 20 versions of video. But you don't have to go that crazy.
Now, Jimmy approaches this process first qualitatively. He debates with his team or texts fellow trusted YouTubers to get their insight on a thumbnail. And this is A/B testing of sorts, but it's not really the analytical type of tests that we're looking after. The problem with YouTube is that A/B testing isn't necessarily easy because YouTube doesn't have the tools to truly compare one thumbnail against the other. In Jimmy's case, their approach is launching a video, giving it a few days, and if the performance isn't what they expected, they switch it for another one. We're much quicker about this, by the way. We know that most of the videos that we release should have a 7 to 10% click-through rate when they get exposed to the most loyal viewers, who are the ones that get it first. So a click-through rate of 8 is generally a sign that the video will perform well in the future. If we can't hit 7% click-through rate on the first few minutes, we change the thumbnail in as little as a couple of hours after the video has gone live. And this is why we always make 2 or 3 thumbnails for every video so that we're ready to change it without having to go back to the drawing board. We certainly don't have the budget to make 20 thumbnails and then pick one, but one of the best lessons that we learned from Jimmy was that they think of the thumbnail before they actually produce the video, and they only move forward with shooting the video if they've been able to come up with a title and a thumbnail combination that you just can't help clicking. Now, this all works. It obviously works for Mr. Beast, but both of these approaches are flawed. Now, I can fairly say that Jimmy knows more than me, or more than anyone for that matter, but while these thumbnail changing approaches are working, they are far from being true A/B tests. And to explain why, I'm going to have to geek for the next 60 seconds or so. It's just 60 seconds, I promise, bear with me. Because yes, you can look at how the click-through rate has changed. You can look at how views change and draw conclusions on whether or not the thumbnail is better. But this isn't perfect because it isn't a truly randomized test. Because of how YouTube distributes traffic, the circumstances in which people see the thumbnail are too different. They create massive differences. If you look at the YouTube click-through rate, you get this average number. That's useful, but it isn't great. Jimmy released some of his own stats recently, which are completely insane, but the point is that this number is just an average of people who saw your video on their homepage, or after searching it, or after seeing it on their sidebar. Even new events can create ripples on conversion rates. For example, our video on the .com bubble tends to get a boost in views and in click-through rates when there's new talks of crises and inflation and economic turmoil. Now, the better number requires you to go deeper and look at the traffic by source, so you can at least compare apples to apples. And honestly, few YouTubers have the time to look at these metrics that closely. And even so, for example, on YouTube search, the click-through rate varies due to factors that you don't understand, like in which search position you ranked. The higher, the better click-through rate, but you don't know what the search position is. YouTube won't give you that data. Also, a thumbnail might perform great on search because it stands out from the other results, but it may perform poorly on the YouTube homepage because it's not interesting enough to fight against the other 12 thumbnails that you get in that page. I told you this video was an exaggeration of the experiment because changing this thumbnail daily is a bad A/B test. It will not provide statistical significance on any of the outcomes, but if you're here, it's because we at least made you click. Now, a partial solution to this came from a company called TubeBuddy that tries to hack YouTube's limitations by running thumbnails against each other on 24-hour sprints. That's still not perfect though, and they have this list of disclaimers and limitations on how they run these experiments. The simplest reason here is the day of the week, and I'm just not gonna bore you with the rest. It's still better than nothing, but again, it's not a true A/B test, and we're not gonna get one unless YouTube implements that functionality. Now, if this is all starting to sound like a blur, is because it should be, because this is us YouTubers trying to understand numbers and metrics that only YouTube's own data scientist team can fully understand. And part of that relates to Google's, or Alphabet's secret algorithms, which we actually covered on our video last week. But the epitome of these tests are the ones that large tech companies perform in their apps. Because when you have the team to do it, and when your platform depends on a deep understanding of human behavior to monetize humans, A/B tests become key. Let's look at TikTok, for example. Most platforms in the world would want to get your email first. That's the first thing you need, an email, so you can send them spam, for engagement campaigns if they fall out of their path. But part of TikTok's genius is that they ditched the sign up part altogether. All you need to do is pick your interests and you're ready to go. You don't even have to press play on a single video or sign up. Make no mistake, this efficient onboarding flow is the result of dozens, maybe hundreds of iterations, all to get you to spend more hours on the platform, which may or may not be related to psychological, or even political implications.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has banned the use of the social media app TikTok on all government-issued devices over cybersecurity concerns.
Videos tailored to their interests, certain sections of the brain involved in addiction were lit up.
The most successful video I have is like at 68 million views right now.
I'm sorry, 68 million views?
Yeah.
A less tinfoil but still important example is Instagram's initiative to remove the like count from the feed. In 2019, in the midst of this worldwide crisis on teenage depression, researchers and governments looked into social media as a possible cause. Facebook, or wasn't Meta already? These guys were pressured to do something about it, and they responded with an A/B test. In specific countries and with specific sets of users, they started hiding the like count on other people's posts.
The social media platform is conducting a test here in Canada, hiding the number of likes on photos and videos.
That meant that you could only see how many people had liked your own publication, but not anyone else's. And according to them, it was this effort to remove the sense of competitiveness from social media.
We want people to worry a little bit less about how many likes they're getting on Instagram and spend a bit more time connecting with the people that they care about.
But it turned out that it didn't actually change nearly as much about how people felt or how much they used the experience as they thought it would. This is, of course, a vague and shitty answer, and like counts are but a tiny part of the whole Instagram experience and how damaging it could be for young minds. But it was an A/B test, and it was enough to ease the pressure they had. The reason I tell you this story is because the answer to these A/B tests wasn't clicks or views or minutes on the platform. The results of a test like this translate into deep data, into behavioral changes in human beings, from what kind of content they post, to how often they do it, to whether they're depressed or not. When the only people that can understand this data work for a company whose sole motivation is more revenue, what are we really optimizing for? Well, that got a little deep, so let's zoom back out into the realm of tests that we can understand. A/B tests are great, you should do them. Don't forget about statistical significance, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.